All right, class, first off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, this lesson is going to be about the rise of Rome, basically the birth of it. We just finished Greece, ancient Greece. So, if you haven't done that yet, there's a test on there on the week 5 in Google Classroom. So, be sure you get that done before you move on to this one. Uh, but if you have done it and you're ready for Rome, then let's begin. All right, so we are going to be looking at the essential questions, which is what impact did Rome have on the world? Who would you consider to be the greatest Roman leader? And what does the fall of Rome show us about empires? Okay, because Rome does teach us a lesson. Okay, it really should, about how empires come up and eventually go down. Uh, so today's lesson, we're going to analyze how Rome began as a small town and ended up as a dominant force in Italy, and how later on we're going to be talking about how they grew and expanded. Okay, examine the difference between the first, second, and third Punic Wars, and lastly, create an argument on whether Hannibal could have taken over Rome. Now, when I say Hannibal, a lot of people think about that guy from the movie, that Hannibal Lecter. But we're talking about the real life Hannibal. He was a general, and this dude was awesome. You're gonna learn about him in a little bit. Okay, so let's move on. So here is your warm-up picture. So again, you should be having the Google Doc on one side and this YouTube video on the other, and it really does help you out to see where we're at and things like that. Okay. So I do believe I asked you what are 2 or 3 things that you see in this picture. So go ahead, analyze it, look at the foreground, look at the ground, look at the background. Um, what do you see? Okay, and especially the people, what do you see them doing? Okay, so there's that. Be sure you answer the second question to it. Okay, and we're going to be moving on in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so like I was saying earlier in the objective, that Rome actually started off as a village. It was pretty small. It was tiny. It wasn't nothing big and glamorous. But the thing is, they grew into a city. And what happens once they kind of overthrew the person who was ruling them, they became a republic. Now, because they were a city, not too big, and they were surrounded by enemies, they were constantly attacked for basically 200 years. All right, now it wasn't every day, but it was constant. And eventually, as they fought these people and won, they would gain territory. Okay, and every time they gained territory, they just got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where they controlled basically all of Italy. So if you look at the map in Europe, you'll see like a little boot area, a shape of land that looks like a boot in the Mediterranean Sea. That is Italy. Okay. Now, the thing is, Rome, they were unique in this sense that they allowed people to have full Roman citizenship. Okay, you didn't necessarily have to be born in Rome to have citizenship. Um, and one way you got it is by they would extend an olive branch to surrounding communities, saying, hey, you know what? Look at guys, we could destroy you, we can attack you, but we don't want to do that. We feel that we could work together and then we can both prosper. But in return, we need some soldiers. So if you give us some soldiers, we can do some trading, we can both grow, and become powerful. And a lot of these surrounding communities did. So Rome actually started building their army bigger and bigger and bigger. And what ended up happening was they kept conquering and conquering to the point where these communities, they were given a choice, basically like, hey, you can join us. You've been loyal with us. You've given us soldiers. You've been fair with your trades and things like that. So why don't you join us? And a lot of them did because they saw where the wind was blowing, and it was blowing in the favor of Rome because Rome was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All right. Now, a lot of you guys may have seen the pictures like this one right here. And I have a lot of students who ask me, is that really how they dressed? Yes. Yes, that's how they dressed. With the kind of mohawk looking thing. If you look at the armor, it's around the shoulders, chest area, forearms, right? Because they were going to fight close up, so if someone came in, they had the shield that went down, they at least had the forearm guard to kind of sustain the blows from a sword. And if you look at the legs, it's basically like leather. Okay, so that was their outfits, believe it or not. So now we come to the question. There's an old saying. I don't know if you guys heard it or not. Maybe your parents or grandparents. Definitely your grandparents probably heard this before. That Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, now that you know how Rome was, how it started off, and then how long it took to get to that point, what do you think that meaning says? What do you think it means? Okay, Rome wasn't built in a day. So now that you know the facts, what do you think that saying means? Okay, so take a minute, think about it. If you have to, go back to the notes and look how long it took for Rome to get big and powerful. Okay, and we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here's the thing. The Phoenicians, they founded Carthage. Now, Rome, again, like I said it again, was powerful. But Carthage would eventually become a rival country, right? They started around 800 BC, and they were in the northern coast of Africa, okay? And what happened was, like, by 300 BC, they were a strong, in a sense, empire, okay? So they had land, okay? So if you look at the map here, that purplish, land area, that's what Carthage had. But if you look at that island right near the tip of the boot area, that's Sicily, and that's the thing that they were like, no, you guys cannot be here. You are too close to us. And so they started fighting. Now, the thing is, you have to remember, Carthage, because they had land in Spain and some of that, and they had territory, they became very rich, and they became extremely large. Okay? And because of their fighting between Rome and Carthage, this brought up the Punic Wars. And there's 3 wars. Okay, we're going to be looking at all 3 of them. But before we begin, let me ask you this. I want you to make a list of 5 things you feel are the most important a country would need if they were going to war. So, like, obviously, number 1 is soldiers, right? You obviously need some type of soldiers. What would be another thing that you feel your army would need if you're going to go to war with another country? Okay, so take a minute, think about it. What are 5 things in total that you think a country who's going to go to war would need? So again, we talked about soldiers, that's 1. What else would you need? What other stuff would you need if you're going to war? Okay, so pause the video, answer the question, and we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So now the first Punic War, Rome wanted to kick Carthage out of Sicily. That was their goal. Now the thing is, Carthage brought out the big guns. They brought out their army, they brought out their cavalry, which is soldiers on horses. But the thing that they brought out that was truly unique was war elephants. And the thing is, these Romans, yeah, they may have heard things or read things in books and scrolls and some of that, but a lot of them had not seen an elephant before. So this massive mammal just charging at them, just coming straight at them, was just like, what in the world is that? Okay. So as you can see from the picture, yes, the Carthaginians would be on top in the kind of little basket thing and be shooting their arrows at the Roman soldiers below because they had the advantage, the height advantage, you know. And so they just, you know. Uh, so, thing is, though, Rome was strong. Even though Carthage had all these things, Rome was still strong and they were at a stalemate. Basically, what happened was like, let's say Carthage was winning, pushing Rome back, and they're about to win. They would like be like, we need more soldiers, so they asked for more soldiers. At this time, this is when Rome would get soldiers, and they would fight Carthage back, and they would be like, okay, we need soldiers now, so they call for their people, and at that time, that's when the Carthage would get their reinforcements and then push Rome back, and so you can see it just constantly going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it wasn't until Rome got a fleet of 200 warships, and that really pushed them over the edge. And that gave them the oomph they needed to push Carthage out. About a year later, Carthage surrenders. They've had enough. And under the peace treaty, the peace agreement, they had to give up Sicily. They had to get control up of the surrounding islands. So if you looked at that map again, there's islands up on top that they had. They had to give up those. And a little shot to the gut is they had to pay for the war. Not only for their own stuff, soldiers and you know, um, you know, people and things like that, whatever it may have been, but also the Romans. Any damaged property, things like that, they had to pay for it. So it was a real shot to the gut. All right, so before we get to the next Punic War, I have a question for you. What would be a great animal to use in war, and why? Okay, so the Carthaginians used an elephant. What do you think would be a good animal to take into war? So take a minute, think about it, even if it's an animal that we use today, or that you've heard about, read about, things like that. What would be a good animal to use in war, and why? Why did you choose that animal? Okay, so pause the video, answer the question, and we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing, the second Punic War is actually one of my favorites, because the thing is, Carthage actually was like, you know what, we can't have the same thing what we did last time. That didn't work. So they got a new general named Hannibal. Now Hannibal, the guy in the gray, uh, he was an innovator. He was pretty darn smart. And thing is, he nearly defeated Rome. Okay, basically, he got Carthage to conquer not only, you know, the surrounding land around them, but majority of what Rome already had, and basically took them all the way to Rome. They were like going to take the capital city. But the thing is, Rome, their mentality is not to lay down, just take it. Their thing was to fight back, and they did fight back. They gave it their all. So Rome was like, okay, we need a new leader, and that's where Scipio Africanus, which is the other guy, steps in, and he, bam, hits Hannibal like right in the gut, basically, and is able to push Hannibal back. And he keeps attacking. He's relentless. Just keeps going and going and going till Hannibal loses all the land that he conquered and is basically back home in Africa. And what happens is Scipio doesn't stop. He doesn't say, okay, we got our land back, that's it. No, he's like, no, we're going over there. And basically defeats Hannibal. And Hannibal's like, okay, you beat me. You guys are good. So that ends the second Punic War. The thing I like about it is that if you really think about it, Hannibal could have basically got rid of Rome, and Rome would be a footnote in the history books. They wouldn't have been able to conquer and do what they are going to do if he had just gave up more oomph, you know, whatever the thing may have been. Uh, he could have destroyed Rome. Okay. Now the third Punic War is basically a slaughter. It's not even fair. Um, in 146 BC, Carthage is destroyed. All right. Now the thing is, it's not like Carthage was like, okay, we're going to attack you in this and that. Carthage was just hurt. They were licking their wounds in a sense. And also, Rome was fighting other places. They were fighting Macedonia. They were fighting in Greece, you know. And yet at the same time, they're like, let's take out Carthage. Again, it's like you got these other places that are, you have a world war going on with these guys. You're really fighting these guys. Why are you going over here to take out this enemy? You know. But they did anyway, and they end up controlling a large portion of the world at that time. So if you look at that map, all that's red is Rome. So all that area you see in the North Africa coastline, that was once Carthage. They conquered it. The green area, that's the Gaelic, quote unquote, barbarians. That Rome was like, they're uncivilized, they're uncouth, and things like that. So they were going to be next on the checklist for Rome. Okay. So now, if you can look, basically all that Mediterranean land is controlled by Rome. Yeah, there's a little bit yellow over here on the side. But if you compare what the yellow and the green areas are of the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea, yeah, Rome controlled it. That was their hub. So here are my next questions for you. If Carthage was no longer a threat, why do you think Rome attacked them? Like I said, Carthage was nothing. They were minute. They were tiny. They no longer had the oomph that they had before with like under Hannibal in the First Punic War. And also, like I said, Rome was fighting other countries, like stronger countries, and yet they attacked Carthage. Okay, so why do you think they did that? All right, so think about it. And to help you out, that's why I put the second question. Would you attack an enemy that is no longer a threat, and why? So if you say yes, and you explain why, go back to the first question and think to yourself, if you were Rome, then why would you attack this country if they were no longer a threat? So chances are you might have the same mentality, maybe the same thought process, but think of Rome more with land, okay, as opposed to, an enemy of yours because of something they said or supposedly what they did or whatever like that. But think of Carthage, think of Rome, the countries. Right? It's not a personal attack, it's countries. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out to answer it. So we're gonna go ahead and pause the video, but we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So now we come to the exit ticket. So answer one of these 3 questions. How did Rome end up being a dominant force in Italy? So be sure you include some facts. How did they do it based off the notes? Second one, what are some differences between the first, second, and third Punic War? So there are some differences between them. So if you want to tell the difference between the first and second, awesome. If you want to talk about the differences between second and third or first and third, whichever. Okay. The last one, do you believe Hannibal could have taken over Rome? And why? Do you think he actually could have done it? Or do you think that those soldiers and those citizens would have fought to the death, fought to the end to save Rome? So what do you think? Okay. So once you finish this exit ticket, be sure you hit submit Okay. Again, make sure your name was on it. It's like the first question on there. So hopefully you guys don't forget that part. Um, the second part is coming up soon to this. And also next week, I'm planning on having you guys do a research project. I don't know for certain, but I'm planning on it. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll give more instructions um, as the week goes by. And also, again, guys, check Google Classroom. Make sure that you finish the assignments, old and new. Okay, so can't stress that enough. So once you're finished, you're done. You guys have a good day. You take care. Be safe, you guys.